Today we're talking with Dr. Jeanita Pritchett. Dr. Pritchett, thank you for joining us today. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us about your current role?
Absolutely. So first, thank you for having me. So as you said, I'm Dr. Jeanita Pritchett, and I actually wear a ton of hats in the science, technology, engineering, and math space. My full-time job, I'm a senior diversity, equity, and inclusion strategist at the National Institute of Standards and Technology. In that role, I actually am helping to reshape the culture within the organization and really pushing the needle forward in helping to enhance diversity and inclusivity within the organization. Outside of my full-time role, I'm an educator. I've been teaching at Montgomery College for the last 8 years, but I've overall been teaching some form of chemistry class for 16 years total. I am also a leadership coach, and so I work with individuals and organizations to really help them advance their careers or reshape, again, the culture of an organization. I am an entrepreneur. I have a few different businesses. I'm the founder of JSP Coaching and Consulting, which allows me to partner with different organizations. I'm also the founder of STEAM Forward Academy, and our mission is to inspire youth to pursue science, technology, engineering, art, and math with confidence, curiosity, enthusiasm, and a genuine sense of belonging. And then last but not least, I'm the co-founder of Facilitate to Motivate, and our mission really is to help organizations and individuals get into their best mental attitude for sustainable success. So, do a little bit of everything. And I'm also an artist. I also like to paint, and one of my paintings was actually featured on the cover of Analytical Chemistry recently.
What motivated you to go into science, and how did you progress to the role of Senior Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist within the federal government?
So, great question. So I am actually a second-generation scientist. Both of my parents were nuclear engineers. They actually met in physics class, which is, not really heard of in the South. They went to Alabama A&M. Now, when I was growing up, they were very passionate about exposing me to opportunities that exist in science. And so they actually bought my first microscope when I was 5 and put me in computer camp and pretty much encouraged me to be curious. Fast forward, I had a fantastic chemistry teacher, Mr. Frank Stackowitz, who actually is the reason I became a chemist originally. He pulled me to the side when I was in the first 9 weeks of class, and this is when I was feeling too cool for school, not doing what I wanted, could do. And he pulled me to the side and told me like, hey, here are the grades. See, these are the A's, these are the B's, these are C's. But you see this last A? This last A is you. And while you didn't earn that A, I know you could have gotten it. He was like, so I'm gonna give it to you this time, but I'm gonna challenge you to earn it moving forward. And something like went off on me, it was a light bulb. And from that moment, I said I wanted to earn the grade. And so I did, which is great. And he actually invited me back to actually serve as a TA even very early on throughout my 11th and 12th grade years. So then I went off to school, majored in chemistry at Tennessee State University, or TTTSSSU, which is a historically black college and university, and then went to the University of Illinois at Chicago for my PhD in analytical chemistry. I transitioned into actually teaching originally because I couldn't find a job. I graduated in the midst of a recession, so finding a job was a little challenging, but I'm grateful for that because that actually kicked off my teaching career. In the midst of that, I actually applied for a National Research Council postdoctoral fellowship at the National Institute of Standards and Technology. I earned it, got it, and actually took my talents to Maryland and have been there ever since. Now, when I started in the government, I had no clue that I would be in the organization as long as I have. It was supposed to be a 2-year postdoc, but I actually really enjoyed what I was doing and enjoyed my colleagues. So I had a mentor very early on tell me, as you're networking with people, getting to know others, make sure you tell them a couple things. Who are you? What is it you can do? And where you see yourself going? And so I carried that information with me everywhere. And I knew that while I was good in the lab, I really wanted to touch more people and help others get inspired to come into the STEM field. So I started networking with people. I eventually went on a embassy science fellowship where I got to go to South Africa for a few months and teach teachers and students about science, technology, engineering, and math. Came back and then stepped into a scientific advisor role where I was actually now working with leaders to drive the direction of our laboratories. And because of me talking to people, I actually then got offered a position as an academic program manager where I was actually director of the very program that brought me to the organization. And then most recently, because everything that I've always done has been grounded in diversity, equity, and inclusion, I was asked to step up and help with developing the strategic plan for our organization, and then that turned into a position. And so here we are 11 years later, and I've had quite a journey since kicking off my career post-PhD.
What do you believe are the greatest obstacles that women face when working in STEM? And what kind of obstacles, as a woman of color, have you personally experienced?
So, women, I think, in STEM or any discipline, it's an uphill battle, right? Historically speaking, we are paid less than our counterparts. It often is a bit challenging finding mentors that look like yourself. And then couple in things like taking maternity leave and wondering how that's going to impact your career. While I'm not a mother, I definitely have family, friends who have actually experienced that, and so I've seen the hardships that decision, when do I have a child, is this going to impact my ability to do research, can really take a toll on somebody. But then specifically when I couple in the intersectionality of being a Black woman, there's a whole nother layer of obstacles that I've faced. I have been questioned for my capabilities, asked if I'm actually a scientist, asked to go get coffee for somebody in a room of leaders when I'm a leader with them, because they did not think that I belonged there. I have had an advisor when I stepped into graduate school tell me that I wasn't going to do good in his class because I went to a HBCU, then flipped it on him and got the highest grade in the class, and he came back and asked if I wanted a recommendation letter from him, and of course I declined. But then again, couple that with just the idea of being isolated in a lot of places that you're going to step into, and really just trying to find sponsors and mentors that can help you stay motivated along the way. Fortunately, I've been really blessed. Again, my parents were scientists, so they really just were my initial mentors that I saw. And then I've constantly sought out people to really build my network or my personal board of directors to keep me inspired along the way.
You advocate for academia and science to be a more appreciative, nourishing, and just space for people. Can you tell us more about your efforts here and discuss some of the greatest challenges that scholars from an underrepresented group currently face in academic space?
So one of my kind of taglines I operate by is that from inspiring youth to empowering leaders, my mission is to help other people find their place in STEM. And so when I think about, creating this environment where people feel welcome, people feel like they belong, it really starts early on. With my company, Steam Forward Academy, we really encourage curiosity. We really tell people, it's okay to ask questions, and science can be cool. So I think just dispelling the myth of what a scientist looks like or what you can do is one of the main things that I think has helped to really shift the mindsets of people that have gone through any of the programs that I've coordinated. Then as you transpire up the ladder, thinking about how we can support you every step of the way. So giving you the tools that you need to be successful. And it goes beyond teaching people about the technical skills, right? It's those unwritten rules that sometimes you may not be exposed to, especially if you're coming from either a low socioeconomic background or you're a first-generation student. Maybe you don't know that you can negotiate your first salary. We were talking about that recently. Maybe you don't know how important communication is. So through my coaching, that's one of the big things that I try to teach people is how can you actually show up as the best version of yourself so that you can actually be successful. So I think getting that inspiration very early on, getting them excited, but then also creating an environment where they're supported every step of the way and encouraging them to constantly, adapt themselves and find new opportunities and really climb that ladder. Now, when I think about biggest challenges, there's, again, not a lot of mentors out there that may look like them. So for a lot of people, they may not feel comfortable being their authentic selves around others that may not share the same experiences. So more programs are definitely popping up and creating those environments where people can feel supported. But the isolation is definitely real, maybe lack of resources depending on where your schooling is, and just really not knowing what are the opportunities. Like, I never in my wildest dreams could have thought that starting at the bench, I would be at the level where I'm at now. So just getting more information out to people about all the opportunities that are there will really help people overcome those hurdles.
Your work with Steam Forward Academy is truly inspiring. Have you got any advice for young girls and individuals from historically excluded groups aspiring towards a career in STEM?
So one, just recognize STEM can be hard, right? But give yourself grace. It's important to know that, yeah, you may not get a problem correctly, solve it correctly. You may not know the answer immediately, but that's what science is. It's about asking questions, stumbling a little bit, and figuring out a solution. So my big advice, if I think about people that are in school, is one, form study groups, right? Find like-minded people that are interested in these topics as well, because you'll find that if you can explain something to someone else or just bounce ideas off of someone else, you'll learn the material that much more. Two, connect with your teacher. I know, nobody wants to hear that, but your teacher can be your advocate. Like I said in my story, my teacher was the one that inspired me, and so help the teacher to know what your learning style is, what support you need, so that if they're not teaching something the way you need to learn, they can adapt their style. Three, again, remain curious, because there's just a lot of unanswered questions out there, and sometimes people tell you certain things, but for you to truly understand, you have to ask that why. And then four, just find your support system, that network, your personal board of directors. Seek people like mentors, coaches, sponsors, advocates, cheerleaders, because those are going to be the days that, someone says something disparaging to you or you don't do too well on your test. They're going to be the people that really uplift you. And I think I would not be where I'm at without my personal board of directors, for sure.
And finally, what is something that motivates you, that pushes you to continue your pursuit of science?
So that's a fantastic question. So two things come to mind. One, when I'm teaching, like I said, I've been teaching for 16 years. I can literally see the light bulb go off in someone's mind when they've finally got a topic, right? Or finally got a concept down. First day of class, I asked my students, how many guys are scared about this class? They put their hands up nervously. How many guys maybe took the class before and think you're not going to do so well, and they put it, hand up. So I tell them, look, if you throw out everything you've ever learned before and just stick with me, I promise you're going to leave here better than you were before. And by giving them that support very early on, as we're going through different topics, stoichiometry, balancing equations, I can literally see the light bulb go off. And so when I see those moments, that's why I do it. That's number one. But then number two, it really goes to the next generation. My niece, she is my biggest supporter, and hearing her say, my aunt's a scientist, I can do science. She's actually had me come to her class before and do experiments for her kids, because she literally told her teacher, hey, my aunt's a scientist, she can actually do this bigger and better. So I think just the fact that she is so confident in herself and so excited about science, seeing that the impact that not only myself, but my team. I have a phenomenal team of facilitators that I work with, and just seeing how excited they get, that's what keeps me going.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.